I just beat Dragon Quest I via the HD 2D Remastered Collection. Right off the bat, with the caveat that I have not played the original NES Dragon Warrior version of this game, this is probably the definitive edition of this version of Dragon Quest I, hands down. So I have played Dragon Quest I before, the Nintendo Switch re-release they did back in 2019. This is the version that was still fully 2D, but had higher quality sprite work. I enjoyed that version as well, and it was the first time I had played Dragon Quest I. However, the HD 2D version is just a more fully realized product, in my opinion. It has a multitude of quality of life improvements over its preceding editions, as well as better graphics and sound. So, for me, it's the best version I've seen of Dragon Quest I, and it's the one I'd recommend people play if they've never played Dragon Quest I, or a Dragon Quest in general, and they want to start with the first game in the series. It's not a perfect game, though, so let's look at it a bit deeper. Number 1, excellent visuals. I mean this in every aspect. The environments, the sprites, the lighting, it all looks top-notch. I really love the dynamic lighting effects in dungeons when the hero is holding a torch. Even if the character sprites are too, zoomed out to see the finer details of the pixels on the overworld, I can tell they still look great. Everything looks even better in combat. The animated enemy sprites are awesome, the hero sprite is awesome, and the hit sparks and other battle animations work really well with this kind of first-person perspective style of combat that the Dragon Quest series is known for. Can I just gush for a moment here? This battle system is fucking badass. It looks so good for a turn-based combat RPG. Even though you only see the hero in between turns, it's still a really nice effect, and I'm kind of in love with it. This segues, though, into what I think a bigger downfall of the game is: the combat. Wait, what? Number 2, great classic turn-based combat that is actually too slow. Again, another caveat: the default combat speed is way too slow. But the devs knew this, which is why they added a much-needed quality-of-life feature of speeding up the combat. A lot of modern turn-based RPGs are doing this nowadays, and I personally don't mind it. But you could have just made the combat faster in the first place. On the default speed, the text lingers for about a second, and the battle animations don't kick in until after the text disappears for each action. I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but it's for every action. It's just too slow, man. I hate to say that as someone who 99% of the time prefers turn-based combat in RPGs, but seriously, unless you're giving me a spectacle or some kind of button prompt on every action to keep me more engaged, there's no need to make combat that slow. The game has 3 speeds for combat: normal, fast, and super fast. I just about always kept it on fast. I turned it to super fast during grinding sessions and put it back on fast during boss fights. I could make a whole video on my thoughts about turn-based combat, but let's save that for another time. Suffice to say, I loved this game's take on turn-based combat, if by default it was as slow as a snail on something that makes you slow. I don't know, you get what I'm trying to say. Anyway, it doesn't take a whole lot to make a battle feel more engaging, even if just allowing the player to watch some showy attack animations. I wouldn't even say Final Fantasy VI combat is slow, because at least you get to watch the characters move around. But when it's something like what Dragon Quest does, bro, come on. And even with that, I still love this style and visual approach to turn-based combat. But there's one other combat-related critique I need to elaborate upon. Number 2.5, grinding is kind of necessary, even on normal difficulty. This remaster has 3 difficulty settings: easy, normal, and hard, each titled Draki Quest, Dragon Quest, and Draconian Quest, respectively. Okay, that's cute. I actually tried playing on Draconian Quest, i.e. hard, at first, but switched when I couldn't beat the first boss, even after grinding. So the rest of the game I played on normal/Dragon Quest difficulty. Even on this technically easier difficulty, I still got my ass handed to me a good number of times by some bosses, and even once or twice by regular enemies. This game has unforgiving combat. You need to plan your actions carefully, or the enemies will curb stomp your ass with no remorse. So if that wasn't evidence enough, grinding is kind of a necessity in this game. Unless you maybe play on easy? I never did. You'll have to let me know in the comments below. Is easy difficulty any different in that regard? Let me know. You might think this is me putting another knock against the game's combat, but I personally don't mind grinding every once in a while. Yes, there's a threshold in which it becomes excessive, and I think this game just barely misses that mark. I had to grind at maybe 4 or 5 different points in the game, and for a game that kind of goes by as quick as this one can, that's not too bad. Especially with the ability to speed battle up, grinding sessions to get a couple of levels usually last less than an hour or so. I don't remember thinking, at the end of the game, bro, I had to grind too much in this game. So that tells me I didn't mind it. I made this point 2.5 because I felt it was worth mentioning, but it was kind of an extension on my points about the battle system earlier, so yeah. And lastly, number 3, the voice acting and soundtrack are pretty dope. The game has voice acting during major cutscenes, and the voice actors killed it. Not only do they pull off the ye old English vernacular well, their delivery was exceptionally well done. I can imagine giving such good delivery with just about no visual context to play off of is probably difficult. At least it sounds difficult. Voice actors, sound off in the comments below! I mean, there's nothing else I can say, really. Great job, voice actors. You did it. That's it. Show's over. Let's wrap it up, people. Get the fuck out of here. Also, the fully orchestrated soundtrack is great, too. I particularly like the airy, almost whimsical feel of the overworld theme, as if we're going on this grand, epic journey, but have no fucking clue where we're going. Let's just about down over here or something. I don't fucking know. Just sounds like that to me. But really, all the tracks are great. Nothing is really, like, mind-blowing, in my opinion, but they definitely do a good job for an RPG soundtrack. And that's really about all I can say about the auditory experience of Dragon Quest I. It's good. It's not groundbreaking. It's nowhere near bad. It's good. And that's about all I can say about the game, really. It's a pretty good RPG. I didn't even really mention the extra detail added to the story bits with the new cutscenes in this HD 2D version. This is really my only other gripe about the game, too. In 2025, this story feels incredibly boring and not very engaging. We've seen the Rescue the Princess and Save the World story in video games for literal decades now, and while I'm sure it was likely more engaging of a premise when the game first released in 1989, or 1986 in Japan, getting folks to care about a plot with this kind of premise nowadays feels like an uphill battle to me. The story is presented well, absolutely, especially with the new cutscenes, but I just didn't care about it. So personally, I'm not really knocking the game that hard for its plot. Needless to say, I think the game's RPG mechanics and gameplay are where Dragon Quest I in particular shines. If you need a number, I'd give Dragon Quest I HD 2D a 7 out of 10. Beautiful looking, beautiful sounding game that's good for a quick little turn-based romp in a fantasy world. Just be prepared for grinding and a story that may not capture you in this day and age. And that's the quickest review of the HD 2D remake of Dragon Quest I that I can offer. My name is Mitsu Vega. Please subscribe for more videos like this if you have not already. I'd really appreciate it. Like the video if you enjoyed, and as always, you guys stay safe out there, go play some games, and we'll see you next time.